What is up, guys? Welcome back to another video. Another video means another dopamine hike. Said to buy something, to feel something, and today we are back at it with another review. Today's review in question is NECA's the Boar Predator, or Boar from Predator 2. This is part of NECA's Predator 2 30th anniversary line for the Lost Tribe. This figure initially did come out in September of 2022, and at any point during or after the video you do want to pick up this figure for yourself, you can get them at Target for $36.99. At the moment there is no option to get them online on the Target website, so if you do get them from Target it will have to be in person, but you can get them for $39.99 off of Entertainment Earth, $41.99 off of the Big Bad Toys store, and for a variety of prices starting at $35.95 on Amazon. And when it comes to the story of our boy Boar right here, he is part of a rare subspecies of Yautja born on an island of Yautja Prime. When he was a juvenile, his entire clan was wiped out by a rival clan. Him and his brother Stalker were the only ones to escape, and in order to survive they became thieves and just kind of, lived off what they could find and scrap. And one day they decided to steal from Greyback, the elder of the Lost Tribe, but instead of punishing the two brothers, Greyback noticed their talent and abilities and decided to recruit them into the Lost Tribe. And then all that's known after that is what we see in Predator 2. But with that all being said, let's get into the review. So here we are looking at the packaging, and we have some nice artwork of Boar, the nice logo on the bottom, and then we have the Predator 2 with the number of Boar, and then the 30th anniversary logo on the other side. Looking at the back, we get some nice action photos of Boar, a brief description of what he is all about, some Lost Tribe members on the side, and everything that is included on the bottom. Bringing it back forward though, we have the figure with everything included, so that is all nice to see there. That would be terrible if something was missing. And then we have a nice big photo of Boar yet again, and that's pretty much everything with the packaging. So let's open this up and get into the review. So starting off with articulation in the head region first, you can rotate his head 360 degrees, which is always good to see here, and then you can have him look up and down a decent amount, so no issues with that. And then of course you can have him tilt his head side to side, so with all that movement that allows him to get a nice pivotal rotation, so you can have him pretty much look wherever you want him to look. So with that being said, very happy with the range of motion on his head. And then taking a look at his arm, you can rotate it 360 degrees, which is always good to see on these figures. And then when it comes to the bringing of the arm up, you have to adjust his shoulder plate, but once you do that you can have him bring up his arm a really good amount, and that same principle applies for opening up his arm. Again, just you have to adjust his shoulder plate. On the other arm not so much, because the shoulder plate isn't as big. And then when it comes to the bicep, you can rotate it 360 degrees, just not on this arm because of that bigger shoulder piece, but on the other one, because it's a smaller piece of armor, you can get that 360 degree rotation. So very nice to see that there. And then when it comes to the elbow bend, you can bring up his forearm a decent amount. You're not really going to get a shoulder tap out of him, but you're almost there, past the halfway point because of the gauntlet and bicep clashing. But it is what it is. I don't really consider this a deal breaker because the range of motion is still really good nonetheless. And then you can rotate the forearm or the gauntlet 360 degrees, which is very nice. And then the hand, of course, you can rotate 360 degrees and bend the wrist however you please. So overall, very happy with the range of motion we have in his arms. It's pretty much the NECA standard, what we're seeing here. Sometimes they can do shoulder taps, but after that, this is pretty much what we're used to, and it is really good articulation at the end of the day. Then looking at the torso, we can get a nice 360 degree spin, and then you can rotate the chest from the stomach 360 degrees, and then with that you can get a nice back and forth movement. By no means is it a crunch, but it's movement nonetheless. And then you can have him tilt side to side as well. So with that being said, you can get a nice pivotal range of motion out of him, which is nice to see on these figures. Pretty much a standard, and I have no complaints with it whatsoever. And then finally, looking at his legs, you can rotate his legs 360 degrees, which is always nice to see on these figures. And then you can have him do a split. His right leg does kind of not go up as much because of the smart disc sheath, but it isn't the end of the world. And then you can bring up both of his legs if you want him to sit in a chair or on a cliff edge or something. And then when it comes to the knee bend, you can get a pretty good bend out of him. It is double jointed, so you can get almost a full butt kick, not quite there, but still a really good bend nonetheless for those action or running poses. And then with the feet, you can bend 360 degrees or bend the ankle however you please. So very happy overall with his leg articulation, something that we're just accustomed to with these figures, and overall very happy with his articulation. Then diving into features and accessories, starting off with the swappable head. Obviously you just pull off whatever head is attached and then just plug in the other head that you want on, and then vice versa to, you know, undo what you just did. So yeah, there's his face looking all smexy and whatnot. But I think, like most people, I'm going to display my Boar Predator with his biomask on. And then one really cool thing that I don't think we've seen in the Lost Tribe yet, and that's the ability to remove the armor from his chest. I really like it when we have that freedom, the variety to choose how we display our figure. The more variety, always the better. It allows for more usage and, you know, playability or display variety for our figures. Honestly, I'm probably going to keep it on him, but I will throughout the video show you what he looks like with it off. Obviously, I'm taking it off him right now. I will say I was a little bit slow and it took me a minute to figure out how to do that, but hopefully for you it isn't as much as a mental hassle as it was for me. But no, I think this is a really cool thing that they've included with this figure, and it's very easy to do once you get it down. And going to the gauntlets, first thing is the energy flechettes. You just remove the panel that's already attached to the gauntlets. I will say they fall off easily, so be careful. And then you would put this panel on through the peg hole, and it looks like he is ready to fire an energy flechette. And for some reason they gave him 2 gauntlets, so he has 2 energy flechettes, so you can have him looking like he's about to dual fire at his energy flechettes, double flechetting if you will. But no, I think it's very cool that they even thought of the energy flechettes, even though it's such a small thing that we wouldn't really display our figures with. I think the option of having it is still very cool nonetheless. And because his gauntlets are identical, he has 2 self-destruction pads on him, which means he can do a double suicide, because if 1 nuke wasn't enough, you need 2, which I think is absolutely chaotic, but I still think is great at the same time. So there's that for you. Just be careful with the hinges so you don't break them. And for the final accessory that attaches to the figure, we have the plasma caster. Now this is the really big one that kind of just looks like a mortar. Obviously you can pull it out to make it look like it's about to be put to use. You can rotate it 360 degrees, have it bend back and forth or side to side. So there's a lot of articulation in this, which is really cool. So you can display this in a various amount of ways. And then obviously if you just want to attach it to him, you just kind of plug it into his back. You can only have it on him if he is wearing his armored chest plating, so mind that. And then of course it stays on nice and secure, so very nice to see that with this figure. And of course we do have our blast effect that is included. You just plug it into the barrel of the plasma caster and there you go. And again, I really love how they give us this effect so you can have some spice for your toyography or when displaying your figure. So yeah, very cool. And I almost forgot about the swappable hands. We have 5 included. We have 2 open hands, 1 kind of half-C open closed hand, and then 2 holding hands for your accessories. So getting into handheld accessories, starting off with the smart discs. We've seen it 1,000 times over. It's the same sculpt and mold that we're used to. Very nice with all the little details and line work they were able to get in. And of course the paint job looks good as well. They use a nice kind of silvery gunmetal gray for this smart disc, and overall no complaints. And then up next we have the combi stick. We've also seen this accessory 100 times over. No complaints with the visual presentation. Really nice with all the little details with the texture and the handle and the combi stick poking out on the ends. The paint job looks good, looks worn, looks used, looks like it's been places. So overall no complaints whatsoever. And then up next we have the combi stick fully extended. Now there isn't really much to cover because like with the smart disc and the combi stick, when it's in its neutral state, we've seen this 100 times over. I have no complaints with the visual presentation. Very happy with the paint and sculpt on this. A lot of detail was thrown into this, and you know, the paint job makes it look worn, look used, look like it's been used many times. So yeah, no complaints on my end whatsoever. And then for our final accessory, and it is the skull. I love it when they include this. It's a nice little gimmick accessory. You know, it just adds some value and some variety to the accessories included with the figure. And overall, you know, looks fine. No complaints with the visuals at all. Just happy to see that it is included. And here we are with the visual presentation segment of the video. This is pretty much where I kind of just talk about how good or bad, mostly good, the figures look. And this is a NECA figure, so I will be shilling how good this figure looks. I know in these segments I can get a little ranty and a little off topic, so I'll try and make it short and sweet as possible. And because this is a NECA figure, of course, I think that this figure looks phenomenal. NECA does a really good job at making sure that their figures look as lifelike and as detailed as possible, and that is seen here. And we can start off by appreciating the sculpt work on this figure. There is so much to go over, but to keep it brief, looking at his armor, the line work, all the chips, cracks, and scratches, it looks like his armor's been worn, it looks like it's been used. There's a story to tell about each little detail that we see on his armor. Like, the line work is impressive, the engravings are phenomenal. Just, there's so much to appreciate in the biomass chest piece, the gauntlets, and the gauntlets you can even open up the self-destruction device and you can see the framework and the little screens in there. And just one thing I really have to shout out is the plasma caster. It is such a busy and complicated design, and yet NECA, you know, was able to get it down and execute it almost perfectly. It looks phenomenal. And just talking about his skin, the netting is like almost perfect. Like, they didn't just paint netting onto him. You can actually, you know, feel the netting overlap his skin, and then, you know, the wrinkles, the bumps that you can see throughout all his body. There's the bags under his eyes, the, you know, folds in his mouth. There's just so much to appreciate about the sculpt of the actual figure. It makes him look alive, feel alive, and that's just something I have to give NECA credit for. And I do have to say, the sculpt work wouldn't look nearly as good if it wasn't for the phenomenal paint job NECA gave this figure. Due to the paint job, a lot of the finer, smaller details that NECA does get down pop out because of the paint. And just starting off with the armor, going back to that wear and tear, I really love the silver wash they kind of gave the dark gray armor to really, you know, emphasize the fact that this armor has been used already. If you couldn't tell from the amount of scratches, dents, and chips in the armor, the paint job does give it that extra, you know, level of, you know, wear and tear look. And then going over the leather pieces, you know, the leather pieces actually look like leather. The paint job does enough of a convincing job to just not make it look like plastic, because, you know, that's what this figure is, a piece of plastic that gives me dopamine. But the paint job does a really good job at masking that and making this piece of plastic actually look like metal or leather or whatever part of the body you are looking at, look like the appropriate part that it is. And then just looking at his skin, each predator has a unique pigmentation and unique skin pattern, and that is seen here. And NECA did a really good job to make sure that the colors of this predator and the pattern plays really well with itself to, you know, actually, you know, look lively and as lifelike as possible. So I do have to give NECA credit for just such a phenomenal job on the paint job of this figure. And with all that being said, let's put this bad boy into scale with some size comparisons. Starting off with NECA's Xenomorph Warrior. Jazz wears Halo, the Spartan Collection Wave 1 Mark 5B Spartan. Then we have Jazz wears the World of Halo 3 ODST Rookie. Then we have Hasbro Star Wars the Black Series Gaming Greats Rocket Stormtrooper. Good Smiles Figma Doomslayer. And finally we have McFarlane's the Doomslayer. And here we are at the turntable segment of the video. This is pretty much where I go over my general thoughts and opinions. You know, likes, dislikes, pros, cons, strengths, weaknesses, all that jazz. And I usually get into the sour stuff first just to get it out of the way. But honestly, there's nothing I really dislike about this figure. There's a few nitpicky things I have to say, like how I kind of wish it came with a clip for the combi stick so you can have it on his back, because this figure does not have that. And just to interrupt myself for a second, I know some people are probably going to say, well, he has the armored chest piece on that blocks where the clip goes, so that's why he doesn't have it, which I do get. But, you know, it would still be nice to have, like, if you wanted to display him without his armored chest piece, but you still want him to have the combi stick on his back, because I know there are, you know, predators that don't have the armor chest piece on, and they do have combi stick clips still go on their back. So I just figured I would, make that point very clear before someone tries to rebuttal me, because I am never wrong. And I do wish that the smart disc would have a much easier time getting into the sheath, because this is one of those figures where the smart disc doesn't like to get in. Some figures they do, some they don't. It's a very selective thing from what I'm seeing in the NECA community. But after that, I genuinely don't have any complaints about this figure. I think this is a very well-rounded, well-made Predator figure. It doesn't reinvent the wheel. It does its job just as it's supposed to do, and I have no complaints with that whatsoever. Then getting into the positives, talking about the pros, like strengths, whatever you want to consider it, and the things I'm going to talk about might be considered the NECA standard, but that doesn't make this figure any more awesome than it already is. And starting off with the visual presentation, as you know, in the visual presentation segment of the video, I love how this figure looks. NECA did such a great job at making this figure look as lifelike as possible, getting every little detail, and making the paint job work with this sculpt job so well. So the visual presentation of the figure is awesome, and not only is this a really good looking figure, but it's a really good feeling figure. The articulation on this figure is great. You get a wide range of motion, so you can get a bunch of poses for your toyography, or if you just want to simply display your figure, you can do that in a various amount of ways. And then the accessories, NECA for the most part always makes sure that they give us a bunch of accessories with our figures, and that is really shown in the Predator franchise, because the Predators have so many weapons and gadgets to work with, and NECA makes sure they give us a lot of gadgets and weapons when we get our Predator figures. And I even love how they give us variants of said accessories, like with the combi stick and the smart disc. Really just shows how much they care about us, the customer, and how much they want to give us the freedom of displayability and playability. So something I really have to give NECA credit for is that thought and just the amount and variation of accessories that we are given. And those are really the big three things that I like about this figure. After that, it's more subjective stuff like his design. I really do like his design. His biomask in particular, it really sticks out because it's not designed like your traditional Predator biomask. It's something a little bit different, and that's something I really do like. So there's all that kind of stuff, but those are the really big three ones that are, overall something I think everyone can appreciate and enjoy about this figure. And with all that being said, there's not really much else to cover about this figure, so I think we can move things over to the outro. And if you did like this video, a like and a subscription would be awesome. Don't worry about commenting. I get it. It's a lot of effort. Unless you want to bounce off anything I did say in the video, you're more than welcome to. I will most likely reply to your comments because obviously I like talking about this stuff, so why wouldn't I? And don't worry about the bell because we both know that shit is broken. And if you want to see more content like this, there's plenty of it up on the channel. I do cover a bunch of Predator and Alien stuff, so that's already there for you. And if you like Halo or Star Wars stuff as well, that is up there as well. So if any of that does interest you, you're more than welcome to go check it out. And with all that said, have a nice day and please stay hydrated. It is important.